Mandatory vaccinations may soon be a reality because in this post-COVID 1984 world, the powers that ought not to be are now ramping up their efforts at exponential rates to achieve that agenda. So in this video, we're going to cover a lot of new information in regards to how that has been going. We're going to take a look at this, the fact that there is a petition here in British Columbia for mandatory vaccines, and it's already reached nearly 60,000 signatures out of their 75,000 goal. I find that to be absolutely insane. We have top lawyers in the US like Dershowitz saying the power to plunge a needle into your arm does come from the government. He says forced vaccinations are constitutional. He says, let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread the disease, even if you disagree, he said. You have no right to not be vaccinated. You have no right to not wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business. Goodman interjected to clarify whether Dershowitz was saying that the federal government has the ability to mandate vaccinations for all citizens. And he says, absolutely, Dershowitz replied. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. Ladies and gentlemen, these people are absolutely psychotic. We need to reject these authoritarians and these Karens of the world who want to enforce these types of things on other people. We have companies like MasterCard now saying they will not send staff back to offices without the coronavirus vaccine. This comes despite the fact that a quarter of Americans have no interest in taking the COVID-19 vaccine. So we're going to get into all of that. Meanwhile, in Ontario, Canada, guys, Doug Ford is saying that the province will now have a plan for random mass COVID testing by next week. He says, we can't just be testing people with symptoms. We have to start going to the broader public and start testing as many people as possible, asymptomatic people, he said. Until we do that, we can't get our hands around the whole system. So that's what's happening in Ontario. Over in Alberta, Premier Jason Kenney has already had to announce that he has no intention of making COVID-19 vaccine mandatory if one becomes available. But just get a load of this, guys. Let me just read this for you. He says, there's been some misinformation that the government recently adopted a law requiring mandatory vaccinations. That is completely untrue, he said. That is just a total myth. All right, well, the truth is that since 1910, the Public Health Act or its previous legislation has had the ability to require mandatory inoculation. Do you see what's happening here? He's saying there's misinformation that the government recently adopted a law requiring mandatory vaccinations. It's completely untrue. This is a total myth. The truth is that we have had the law since 1910, that it's not recent. That's where the slip-up is. But they do have the ability to require mandatory inoculations. So it's just insane that we've come to this point in the world, guys, but yet here we are. So in this video, we're going to cover all of that because, honestly, there is a virus going around right now. But it's not COVID-19 that we have to worry about. The virus we need to worry about today is statism. And it is infecting the minds of the masses into believing that they need to inject more control, more central planning, more control by the state. When really, guys, the cure doesn't lie in centralized planning and more control for the state or vaccines. The cure lies in embracing individual freedoms and individual liberties moving forward. So we're going to talk about how you can do that and much more in this video. So stick with us, guys. But before we get into that, I'd ask that you check me out here on patreon.com/pressfortruth. Here you can select a membership level, contribute, $5, $10, $15 a month, anywhere up to $500 a month if you want to be a PFD angel. But any amount absolutely helps in this age of censorship. We truly do need the help coming from you, the viewers, to help us carry on with bringing you this information. So if you appreciate my efforts here at Press for Truth, please check the links on the screen or in the description below to find out how you can contribute to our efforts here at Patreon. All right, as I said, guys, there's been an agenda for a long time now for mandatory vaccines, but it's only in the post-COVID-19 84 world that we're seeing it increase at unbelievably exponential rates, to the point where there's a bunch of Karens out there petitioning that the government should be able to mandatory vaccinate their kids in schools. I'll put a link to that so you can check it out in the description below. But check out what Dershowitz says here after he said that, you know, doctors should have the ability to plunge a needle into your arm at the hands of the state. He says, that's what democracy is about. If the majority of people agree and support that for public health measures, you have to be vaccinated. You have to be vaccinated. They should give you an alternative, he says. The alternative is to live in your home. Don't get vaccinated, but never ever leave your home or live in a bubble. But if you want to interact with other people, you cannot become Typhoid Mary. The Constitution doesn't give you the right to spread your illness to other people. I can't believe we are to the extent where complete douchebags like Dershowitz are telling people that you need to listen to the authorities, you need to listen to the health regulators in regards to this. Meanwhile, they're the ones who have been getting things incorrect and wrong and confusing the issues left, right, and center. I mean, first it was not good to wear a mask, and now it is good to wear a mask. And at first it was a couple million people are going to die, and now it was actually closer to 50,000 people. And now we're seeing things like this coming from the CDC. Coronavirus does not spread easily by touching surfaces or objects, which is what they originally said, but it still may be possible. So they are constantly flip-flopping and being absolutely confusing, and this is who our health regulators are taking their information from to try to get you to go along with these agendas. It's absolutely insane. Now, as I said, in Ontario, Doug Ford is looking to have a plan for random mass COVID testing. He says we can't get our hands around the whole problem unless we do that. And here he goes on to say who he wants this to be directed at first. He said he hopes to see Ontario truckers, taxi drivers, automotive sector workers, as well as those who work in food processing plants, all tested in the coming weeks. All of them. He also said all teachers should be tested before returning to school, and that long-term care home staff and frontline healthcare workers should also be tested again. So when you see words like random mass COVID-19 testing, that leads one to believe that it's not necessarily going to be voluntary. Although they always say at first it is, and then later that turns out to not be the case. Well, here we had the Premier of Alberta really being confusing to people, saying, no, it's misinformation. You know, this is all a lie that the government recently adopted a law requiring mandatory vaccines. That's completely untrue. That's totally a myth. Well, as we've shown you, what's incorrect about it is that the law is recent. Not that it's mandatory that they can make you take vaccines. No, it's just that the actual truth is it came out in 1910. But they can still require mandatory inoculations. I mean, just get a load of this article here from CTV News. Rumor that Alberta will require mandatory vaccines, a total myth. My God, are they pumping out some ridiculous propaganda. That's not what he was saying, that it's a myth that there are mandatory vaccines potentially coming down the road. No, the myth, the inconsistency was that it's a new law. No, it's an old law, but it's still on the record that this may soon be coming down the pipe, guys. So this is just insane. They are ramping up their efforts here in Ontario, in Alberta, also in Ontario. As we said, a quarter of Americans have no interest in taking the vaccine. President Trump's Operation Warp Speed, a public-private partnership to develop a vaccine and ready it for the mass production by early 2021, has generated anti-vaccine concerns among some Americans, a new study finds. Well, good. People should be very concerned with the potential adverse health effects of vaccines, the inherent dangers of the vaccines, some of the questionable ingredients in these vaccines. Unless you do your due diligence, you're probably going to take the shot. If you just listen to the mainstream media, you continue to watch the television, you read these MSM articles, you will be led into the slaughter. I've been warning about this for quite some time, guys, and I would encourage you to check out a recent interview I did with Dr. Ron Paul on COVID-19 vaccines, government overreaction, and the importance of resisting tyranny. This is a very important interview that I did, that I asked you to check out. Dr. Ron Paul knows what he's talking about in regards to this through experience of dealing with the swine flu pandemic in the 70s and his first year in the Senate. He's been through this all before, and we really laid out why mandatory vaccines need to be rejected lock, stock, and barrel. Guys, I've been talking about this for well over a decade. If you didn't know, I put out this video way back in 2009 titled "The Shot is the Pandemic, Swine Flu Vaccines and the CBC," where we exposed 11 years ago now the inherent dangers with vaccines. So I want to point you to that in the description below as well. But I want to leave you today with a really solid resource from our friend James Corbett at CorbettReport.com. His video is called "Bill Gates' Plan to Vaccinate the World." This is just a fantastic little, just about a half-hour long documentary, which really lays out the agenda, and it's completely undebunkable, this particular piece. So if you want something you can share with your friends and family who are skeptical about your skepticism in regards to COVID-19, please share this video with them, and also share the one from James Corbett. A link will be located in the description below. Guys, it's incredibly important now more than ever that we continue to raise awareness about the inconsistencies, the inconsistencies in the death count, the inconsistencies in what they're telling us to do, and the fact that government overreach into our lives is not the answer. Individual freedoms and responsibility is, and that's something we need to remember moving forward, guys. So again, just wanted to bring that to your attention. Mandatory vaccines are on the agenda. They have been for quite some time, and now in this post-COVID-19 '84 world, they're ramping up their efforts at exponential rates. Guys, reject the Alan Dershowitz of the world. Reject the Karens who want to police you into doing something you don't want to be forced to be doing. It's absolutely insane. If you agree, please click the thumbs up button, share this video, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Are you in favor of mandatory vaccines? Maybe we could do a poll right here in the comments. Or do you think this is overreach by the government when it comes to dealing with a so-called pandemic? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget, guys, to please check us out here on Patreon. Any amount helps. $5, $10, $15 a month goes a long way into helping us continue to produce this type of content. So if that's something you appreciate, please click the links on the screen or in the description below. And stay tuned, guys. We're going to have more video reports coming soon on all of this stuff, God willing. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.